We are joined today by NetStock Russ Graff, VP of Sales North America, eRequester Scott Pape, VP of Strategic Relations, V Technologies Matt St. John, Sales Executive, APS Payments, Patty Benitez, and she is actually the Senior Vice President of Channel. I have her title wrong there, but she's been promoted. And a couple interesting facts about all the companies that are joining us today. I'm going to just describe Acumatica briefly here. Acumatica is a cloud ERP platform. It's designed for mid-sized customers. It delivers adaptable cloud and mobile technology. It's it's one of the fastest growing ERPs, if it's not the fastest now. It includes financials, distribution, manufacturing, project accounting, and CRM. And that's the umbrella ERP that all of the solution providers here today enhance with their integration. NetStock is a cloud-based application that enables companies to accurately forecast future demand of products, and it provides incredible visibility into the health of your entire inventory. eRequester automates requisition, PO, and spend management, and it's designed to simplify the purchasing workflow processes with an easy-to-use web interface, and it provides controls over spending so companies can maintain compliance and boost efficiency, and it just eliminates all the manual paper-based processes that goes along with approval workflows and such. And it's very flexible in routing those requests and spend management workflows, and you can achieve a very rapid ROI when you implement eRequester. American Payment Solutions, or formerly American Payment Solutions, the APS Payments, is a horizontal payment management solution. They're a merchant services solution provider. And they have a new solution for Acumatica, which is Click to Pay. And Patty will talk a little bit more about that. And Starship is a UPS Ready Partner Gold FedEx compatible solution. They have small parcel, regional, and LTL integrations where customers, when they place orders through Acumatica, it picks the best carrier based on all the rules of the shipment, the cost of the shipment, and Matt will talk a little bit more about that during his presentation. So a little bit about the workflow. We're going to be talking about how NetStock forecasts the demand of all the items necessary to fulfill orders in distribution and manufacturing. eRequester will automate the purchase management of the invoices that are coming in and the purchase orders that are coming in through Acumatica, and automate the approval workflows. Starship will automate the selection of the carriers based on all the rules of the shipment, and APS Payments will automate the payments based on all the information in Acumatica available about the customer. APS Payments will get you the lowest rate using level 3 credit card processing. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Russ, who's going to talk about NetStock. Thank you, Russ.
Excellent. Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate that. Go ahead and share my screen and hope that all that is working well. So yes, thanks very much for that introduction, and appreciate all those in attendance or listening to the recording today. NetStock is a cloud-based application that bolts onto Acumatica. We've been working with Acumatica for a good 3.5 years or so. Very strong, positive relationship with a great team over there at Acumatica. And like most ERPs and accounting softwares, Acumatica takes you to a certain level of an understanding of demand planning and what's the right level of inventory to have and so forth, but it only takes you so far. It's just not an expertise that exists within the ERP environment, so they rely on a third-party product like ours to take it to that next level. So a true cloud application, just like Acumatica is, very user-friendly and easy to use, as you'll see. and follows kind of a monthly subscription sort of game plan, and very rapidly deployed, easy to get in, easy to get out, no long commitments and so forth. So excited to share that with you today, and how NetStock can help you make better inventory decisions. So with that, we work with small businesses, small, medium-sized businesses all over the globe, really. We're a global company. We've got some 1,400 companies around the globe, over 800 in North America now, that are using our application every day. And any of those businesses that are an inventory-based operation, distribution, retail, e-tail, manufacturing, have the same issues, and they've always had it since day one. And it's always been a challenge for all inventory-based businesses to understand what the right level of inventory needs to be. Sometimes you'll hear phrases like demand planning or forecasting, or inventory optimization is another phrase you'll hear. And those are all kind of similar complementary terms that describe what NetStock does and what the challenge is in those businesses. And balancing the demands of having enough but not too much is the challenge. One thing we know we can't do today is run out of inventory when a customer has demand for it. And especially in today's competitive environment and the expectations that have kind of been set in this Amazon-driven world, if we don't have product that a customer needs at the time they need it, we not only run the risk of losing that sale because of the competition that's easily available, we may actually lose that customer altogether. So the worst case scenario is running out of product and potentially losing sales and customers. But on the other hand, the way I solve that problem can't simply be buying too much, buying so much that I know I'm never going to run out, but now I've got warehouses overflowing with product. There are a lot of costs associated with that approach. One is it's tying up cash, working capital, sitting on warehouse shelves that could be used elsewhere in the business. And so if I can reduce that excess inventory while still maintaining my fill rates or my customer service levels that I demand, then I'm going to have cash flow available to drive other projects and other profit-driving activities in the business. But in addition to that, there are actual hard carrying costs associated with that inventory. I've got to pay insurance and taxes on it. It's taking up space in my warehouse. I have to count it and move it around. There's risk for breakage or obsolescence, depending on the nature of the product. And so there are some very real hard costs associated with having too much. And so I'm always balancing that. And the person in the organization that does that balancing is the buyer or the planner, whose job is to create purchase orders that are perfect, right? That are optimal, that are on time and for the right amount. And they're trying to do that today with limited resources and inadequate tools. And so it's a very stressful job. They're in the middle getting yelled at by the sales team for running out, and getting yelled at by the CFO for having too much inventory on the books. And they're in the middle kind of running around trying to expedite things and stay ahead of the curve. And it's a very challenging environment with limited tools. And that's the purpose of the NetStock application, is to solve that problem, get rid of the spreadsheets or the semi-manual or manual processes that are trying to be utilized to solve that problem, and instead get a proper tool in place to help you run that piece of the business. One thing we like to emphasize is that when you think about inventory management, a lot of times our minds first go towards what I would really call inventory control, right? There's really two components to this aspect. And so the control piece, managing the physical product, things like pick, pack, ship, all those transactions that relate to that, maybe doing those physical counts and maybe hopefully cycle counts of your more important items, and oftentimes using some sort of a automated tool, a barcode handheld device or whatever, to help capture those transactions efficiently and accurately. Absolutely critical that you do that. You must have an understanding of what you have and where it is. But it doesn't tell you the flip side of the coin in inventory management, which is it the right stuff, right? Do I have the right product at the right place at the right time? And that's what we would call the replenishment or demand planning or optimization side of the inventory management coin. And that's what we address with the NetStock application. It has a forecasting engine built into it, some 15 algorithms that are looking at historical consumption or use or sale of an item, and looking at those patterns, perhaps seasonality, looking at that over time, 3 to 5 year horizons perhaps, and through very sophisticated math and those algorithms arriving at, here's my best guess at what my future demand is going to look like. But then with the ability for the buyers and planners and others in the organization to provide their own tribal knowledge and external influence to amend that computer-generated forecast as necessary. We also provide an ordering function, so I can help that buyer and planner create that perfect optimal purchase order in minutes, rather than hours or days, which is what we often see. And we really take what we call a management by exception approach, which helps identify and bubble up to your attention. Here are the items that are most important for you to get right. Here's where I have challenges. Here's how I can prioritize those items that have challenges, solve those first on a daily basis, work through that process. And now we have the ability for the trends to go the right direction in the organization. When we built the application some 8 years ago, 4 founders that came from a long history of demand planning in larger organizations and complex supply chains and so forth, we said, look, targeting the middle market, that small, medium-sized business, we need to really take all that tribal knowledge, all that domain experience that we have, and glean that into really answering 2 key questions. What needs my attention? As I mentioned, a management by exception sort of approach, right? Where are things gone wrong that I need to focus on? And as a result of that analysis, what do I need to order today to get myself into balance? And we really got 3 key engines underneath that drive that process. The first is we do a classification or a product importance ranking of all of our items. You may be familiar with an ABC ranking, right, where I rank my items based on value. But in addition to that, we'll do that. But in addition to that, we'll also rank those same items in terms of speed of movement or velocity in a high, medium, low type of ranking. And now we get a nice combined view that really helps us understand the nature of the items in our inventory and how we can now treat those perhaps differently. We have the ability to create investment policies and service levels and metrics and targets that are based on the nature of those items within the inventory instead of painting every item with the same broad brush. And it really gives us a level of granularity that makes a huge difference in the profitability and the health of our inventory. And as I mentioned, then the third engine is the forecasting engine with the algorithms that really drive the process to know, here's where I stand, here's what I need to do, here's what my future looks like, and what I need to achieve that future. I thought rather than running the risk and from a technology standpoint of actually a live running demo, I've got a couple of key screenshots that I can walk you through that I think will illustrate this for you. And obviously, we're happy to answer questions at the end of today or subsequent to that. Happy to schedule a live demo and learn more about your particular situation. But what we're looking at now is our dashboard. There are actually 9 widgets or KPIs on the dashboard. I've highlighted the top 6. And this is an example of what we look at from a ability to answer that first question, what needs my attention? First of all, you can see that it's colorful, it's graphical. There's a lot of visual cues as a user to know where to go and what to connect to and drill into and so forth and look further. You'll notice that there are bar charts across the top that help me across the last periods see what my trends are for stock and how much of that is in excess, how my fill rate is doing against my target, where am I currently stocked out, or in that last column, a little bit more proactive, where do I have purchase orders already out there that when they arrive are going to contribute more to my excess problem, or the lower right, potential stockouts, where do I have product that's still on the shelf today, so it's not showing up as a stockout, but I can anticipate it's likely to run out before my next replenishment shipment arrives. So I can get ahead of the curve there, and either expedite or delay an order, depending on what the situation is. And you'll notice some underneath the bar chart there are a list of what we call our top 5. These are the top 5 items in our inventory for a given warehouse or across a group of warehouses that are contributing the most to that particular condition. And so now, again, from prioritizing, I can see, and from color coding, I can say, okay, here's one that I really want to drill into today. If I'm a buyer and planner, I've only got 10, 15 minutes before I have to get hauled into my next meeting or whatever it might be. Here's the 2 or 3 things that I'm going to research and solve before I have to exit the system again and take on some other tasks. And we know that, and again, small, medium-sized businesses, sometimes these folks are wearing multiple hats and torn a lot of different directions. So here's a tool that really helps you focus your attention where I'm going to have the biggest impact on the profitability of my inventory. So dashboard starts the whole process for us. We then, I wanted to show you a quick glimpse of that item classification that I referenced. So here's where we're doing our ABC ranking, and then the other axis is low, medium, high. And so what that results in is I've got this 9-box color-coded matrix, if you will, that really describe the items in my inventory. So the folks over on the upper right-hand corner here, right, that are color-coded in green, these are my highest value, fastest moving items. This is my bread and butter. I want to make sure that perhaps I have higher fill rates, I pay more attention to those. So in a year, a day of constraints, that's where my focus is going to go first. And if I just cruise back to this dashboard, you'll see some items there that are color-coded green in my top 5 lists. So maybe those are the ones that I want to drill into first and understand what's going on. So I really get the ability to set these policy parameters, understand, make some decisions around this. Maybe these guys in red that are slow-moving, low-cost items, I might rather not even inventory those or stock those at all, right? Maybe I can have a vendor-managed environment for some of those. Or if those are nuts and bolts that I need for my manufacturing process, maybe I buy them in bulk twice a year, put them in the corner of the warehouse and not worry about them. The point is I can now make intelligent decisions about my inventory based on that classification. One other screen I want to show you as we drill into a particular item. This is an example of what the forecasting algorithm will do for me. It's going to show me both in a table and graphically what my historic demand has been in the blue on the left and what my future projected demand is going to be on the right, based on all the heavy math that we're doing under the hood. And you'll notice an ability to amend that forecast if I need to add some tribal knowledge or marketplace conditions or feedback from my sales team and so forth. This is kind of a bottom-up approach by item. I also can certainly do top-down forecasting by supplier, by classification, by category, product class, or whatever custom grouping might make sense to you in the way that you think about your inventory. And then the last to show you is, so we talked about those 2 key questions to answer. One was, what needs my attention? And that's what we've been looking at. This one answers that second question, what do I need to order? This is the NetStock ordering schedule. And so I can quickly select a supplier. NetStock tells me exactly how many items need to be purchased from that supplier today and lists those for me with great detail for the buyer and planner at their fingertips to do exactly what my recommendation is and why NetStock is recommending that I buy, in this case, say 112 of those items. I can see the cost. I can see if I have a minimum order quantity or what multiples I need to buy them in, if they're case packs, etc. I can see what the cost of that line item on a PO would be. I can see how we classified this item, what its current status is, all kinds of shorthand to look at other locations and see how they're stocked, what my replenishment cycle and safety stock calculations are. I can see my historical demand and future forecast. All this at my fingertips as a buyer, ability to drill back into the item detail if I need to. I can make changes to that recommendation. And when I'm all done, I simply click a button on the bottom of the screen that says download. So this is kind of a working environment. We call it an order schedule. And now the buyer can understand, here's what I'm being told is ideal or recommended. Here's what I add to that mix. I may need to top off a container or get to a certain cost level for free freight or a discount in my purchase. All that is available at my fingertips, again, on the screen for me to make those decisions, use some intelligence to help me make those decisions. And when I'm all done, I press download and it creates an output file which then produces the open purchase order back in Acumatica. We use the REST API calls and the web services functionality of Acumatica to go grab what we output and create that open PO back in Acumatica. So we've answered those questions. What's gone wrong? What do I need to do about it? What do I need to order today and why? And go ahead and place that order very quickly, very effectively, with some confidence that it is optimal. And tomorrow I get a fresh dashboard because we refresh every night, and which is perfect from a planning horizon. And the next day I focus, I repeat, rinse and repeat, right? I focus on those most important items. And as I do that with some discipline, with some coaching from our team, you can't help but see those trends on that dashboard go exactly the right direction, reducing your excess stock, getting closer to the ideal model, and at the same time, increasing your fill rate and customer service levels to your customers, and therefore increasing sales and profits. So plenty of success stories that prove this, that this works great. Again, lots of customers around the globe and around the country that are using it every day to optimize their inventory. And so once I complete that purchase order and I push that button and it goes now into Acumatica as an open PO, it will now follow the standard business rules and workflows that have been established there, which is really where eRequester and Scott takes over to apply some of those workflows and processes internally within Acumatica. So with that, Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Russ. Appreciate you spending the time. Hi, everybody. I am Scott Pape. I'm going to give you a little overview of our eRequester solution. The system, eRequester, is a leading spend management system, and it can help companies and clients using Acumatica provide better controls and efficiencies over their spending. The system is great for managing approval hierarchies for spending. It handles indirect spend, not necessarily inventory items. I know Russ just went through a great presentation about how the inventory management can be facilitated through NetStock. The eRequester system can help with visibility and controls over any kind of spending for allowing your end users through a easy to use cloud interface, making requisitions, doing approvals, generating purchase orders, receiving as well as invoice approvals where needed. It doesn't need to integrate with the purchase order and inventory components within Acumatica. This can also feed directly into the Acumatica accounts payable module for those companies that really are managing the indirect spend services, things that aren't inventory controlled as well. It can be utilized by companies in various industries. Any clients using Acumatica, obviously, that have a need to do vendor punch-out integration to get direct connections to suppliers. Our system was Gartner Group rated as the leading e-procurement system in various categories, which typically results in great user adoption because it's easy to use, easy to understand and implement, minimal training for the end users, and we're looking typically to address common challenges companies have in connection with paper-based or manual purchasing related processes. So many of the bullet points that you can see listed here are common challenges clients have: lost approvals, maverick spending, lack of insight into remaining amounts on budget, etc. can be alleviated through a nice online requisition to spend interface with notifications, dashboard visibility, better compliance and collaboration, as well as ultimately saving time, saving money to get a better ROI from a spend management system such as eRequester. Our catalog of modules includes not only purchasing requests and approvals, but mobile and email approvals. So you can even approve directly from the email notifications without having to log into the system. You can do RFQs to get quotations from your vendors for pricing, user-definable fields, and other great features. All that is why customers ultimately implement the system. What I'll do now is just pull up the web browser here, and I'll use my username and password to log in to eRequester in my capacity as an end user. And when you log in, you'll be presented with a dashboard. This gentleman, his name is Joe Requester, and he can see a list of transactions that are in progress. So you have requests to buy stuff, requests to pay bills or to purchase, and those have a number that the system will assign for internal tracking purposes. Nothing gets lost. Friendly references that can be given a title, office supplies, equipment. You can see the name of the vendor that you want to buy from, and you can even categorize your request to purchase in different ways. Standard PO request can be contrasted with an IT request for computer stuff or capital expenditures. You can have different request types, and they can flow through their own unique approval hierarchies. The users also have visibility over the status, so nothing is lost. They can see where it is in the process. A request can start incomplete, and then when you submit, it goes into a status of waiting. In this case, that means waiting for approval. And you can also see the name of the person who's currently in charge of reviewing and approving that particular transaction. The director, she's got to approve the vehicle repair, whereas the manager needs to approve the supplies request. So all this visibility at your fingertips to see where transactions are provides the finance department with more comfort knowing that they're going to have better visibility and control over their spending, as well as the efficiencies of not having to track down a bunch of paper-based manual processes. In addition, If somebody wants to make a request, they can generate a request from scratch, or you can also just pull up your requisition templates and you can copy any template into a new transaction. So you could just hit the copy button, and then you could put any of the pertinent information that might need to change from your template. You can also add any details. So once you copy the template, you can edit the quantities, you could edit the cost if you need to. The nice thing about the templates is you can default all the data other than what might need to be changed, and then just put in quantities for anything that you desire today to add to your transaction, and then just hit the save button. And it's going to save just the line items for which you enter quantity. So this is a standard purchase request, in this case from Joe, for some toner pens and notebooks, and the quantities I just entered got saved. All the zero quantity line items got removed. It's $1,110. You can upload your supporting information if you have any contracts or quotations, specifications. You could just attach any pictures, as the case may be, whatever it takes to let your managers know that there's a request here that needs to be approved so that you can buy it, or that centralized purchasing can buy it. The system supports both centralized as well as decentralized purchasing companies. So you can make a request, get it approved, and then order it yourself, or you can make a request, get it approved, and it'll go to a buyer or buyers. In this case, I'll just hit continue, and it will tell me who, if anyone, needs to approve it. If it's within my authority, I could buy it, or purchasing could buy it. If it's over my authority, it'll tell me. In this case, the manager, Bob, has to approve it. And then once he approves it, the director, Jane, has to approve it. Once she approves it, I can buy it, or purchasing could buy it. In this case, it's $1,110. The system has calculated the approval workflow, which is based on dollar thresholds, or the type of request, or the department, or other rules. It's very flexible. You could put in some justification. You could carbon copy any other user, let them know about the request that's now pending, and this requisition 5891's now been submitted for approval. So you could see it is in a status of waiting for manager Bob to take action, and that guy Bob will get a notification email letting him know there's a purchase request that requires his attention. And so we can go ahead and log out in our capacity as Joe, the requester. We'll check our email here and see if at some point I'm going to get an email notification. I'll come back to that when it comes in and show it to you. In the absence of the notification, you can log in at any time in your capacity, in this case as manager Bob, and he can see in his pending approval queue, there are 4 requests that are currently waiting for his attention. And each of these are waiting for his attention. And, you know, there's one at the bottom from accounts payable asking for some information. Joe requester asked him to approve 3 purchase requests, and he could go ahead and check the box and approve it, or drill down to view it and look at the details. And in this case, you can see this request from Joe for $1,110 worth of stuff. It has to be reviewed. He can modify the expense account if needed and sub accounts. He can also put in just some information here, look at the status, the details. This was date and time stamp created, submitted, and now it's pending the approval of the manager here. And if you want, you can say something like, this is fine, and approve it, in which case it'll flow on to the next person responsible for taking action. So I've approved request number 5891. It's taken me back to my dashboard, and you can see there's still these other transactions that I can work on, but I think I'll just log out, and the next person gets notified. It goes through the workflow. So as you can see in my email here, these emails go out and they let people know what's going on along the way. One great feature is that an approver can actually get all the information right in the email. So you can see the contract was included, the header information, the line item detail, all populated within the body of the email. And there's even an approve and reject button in the email itself. So the user can approve it without being connected to the computer. You could just approve it, and that will send the approval into the system via email, all date and time stamped with the approval of the person who responsible. Or you could click the link here, and that will take you to the login screen. And if you're not logged in, you can log in. If you are logged in, it takes you directly to the transaction. So I've logged in as the second approver, Jane Director. She can see that Joe here wants to buy those supplies for $1,110, and she can also see in the history the date and time stamp it was created, submitted, and then approved 2 minutes later by manager Bob. Bob says this is fine, and the director is the final approver. She studies this. If she needs to correct it, she can edit it and make some changes. You can also add any comments to communicate. You can ask for more information. You can approve it. You can reject it. So we have some flexible options here. If she's out of office, she can do an out of office delegation. I'll just hit the approve button in this capacity, and that's going to fully approve this purchase request. In this case, requisition number 5891 has been approved. The system assigns a PO number, in this case, PO 995, and we could look at that by just clicking on the PO number, and there's a document here called a purchase order, which is PO 995 from our company to that supplier for those items requested by so-and-so and approved by the people that we just walked through. You could print this, email it. I'll just click the email button, and you could send this off to your vendor right from the system to place the order. You could attach your contract, your terms and conditions. We do support vendor punch out to Amazon, to Staples, Grainger, Office Depot. So there is an ability to do some electronic orders and also punch out to their catalogs to build your shopping carts. That's stuff I can show you on another session. But I've just gone ahead and submitted that order, placed it, and now we're waiting for the vendor to deliver the goods and the invoice. The invoice matching can also take place in eRequester. We could get the invoice approved. You can have the invoices emailed into the system here. I'm not going to spend time on this today, but if invoices get sent in by email, they show up in an AP inbox, and you can convert these to invoice transactions, get them routed for approval, and then once approved, they typically feed into Acumatica's accounts payable module so that they can turn into invoices that get paid. There's a lot of also great features in the search. You can query your data based on different parameters and filters. You can query, if you want to see everything that's waiting for approval in the company, you can select your parameters, hit search, and it will pull up all this nice business intelligence to see the data that you have searched for, to look up historical info, pending open transactions, closed transactions, and you can sort any of the columns by the column headers. You can move the columns around if you want to reorder them for yourself. You can export these results to Excel at the header as well as the line item level. So this is a very flexible search and export feature built into the system. On top of that, there are some standard reports available in the reports menu to run to see all your history of purchases by department or vendor or item or location that can be run. Within the administration, there's an amazing amount of options. If I briefly show you the system capabilities, you can see that you could set up any number of approval levels, any number of request types, departments, and workflow can be configured based on different rules that you define in the workflow engine. So you could tell the system under what conditions things need to be routed to appropriate people, and that's easy to set up and maintain, but also very flexible. With that said, I think I've covered the high-level overview of the system. Of course, I would hand this off now to.
My name is Matt St. John, one of the sales executives here at V Technologies for Starship. And today we'll do a quick brief overview of Starship and the integration with Acumatica. And we'll quickly process a shipment. But here on my screen is the actual Starship software. One of the versions, this is actually the client version, our original client version. We do have actually a new web eye, so it's a nice web UI look and feel to the program. And actually, hopefully by the end of the summer, we'll be releasing a full-blown cloud version. So, but today we'll just go through the original client version. So nice thing with Acumatica as a shipper, I'm sorry, the Starship with Acumatica as a shipper, I can work directly inside of Starship. Technically, don't even need access to Acumatica. So on the upper left-hand side is our source document. As you can see, I use this drop-down. We can pull by shipments, sales order, or by customer. For the sake of the demo today, I'll just pull by shipment number. But so you know, if I do pull by a sales order number, once we process the order through Starship, Starship will generate the shipment record inside of Acumatica for your shipper. Okay, so source doc, we can type that in. We can use a regular wedge type scanner if we happen to have our pick sheet or whatever we're shipping against barcoded. We can also use the magnifying lookup. From here, I can even get into batch processing where I can select as many orders as I'd like and then simply click OK. And what's going to happen as soon as I click OK, Starship will just start processing all those orders or shipments in this case and just start generating shipping documents. Okay, so this case here, let's grab an order. And for today's scenario, I think we'll just pull a international shipment so you can see how Starship will help automate that process. But Starship is multi-carrier, multi-mode, so I can do LTL shipments, of course, domestic shipments, and really, you know, for an LTL or freight shipment here, the difference would be we'd actually have a pallet, but really kind of the same workflow. So we're basically mapping fields from Acumatica and bi-directional. So based off of ship via, Starship is automatically going to select carrier, service, billing, account information. So anyone doing third-party shipment, we can help automate that process where it's automatically going to make it third-party or collect and pull in the customer's account info. Sender, of course, that's the company coming from inside Acumatica, and the recipient is the ship to. Okay, as you can see, Starship is pulling order header, line item detail. Starship will also validate the ship to address. We do zip+4 address validations, as well as validate the commercial residential flag. So going to help save on address correction fees and commercial residential correction fees. So up top, kind of really consider this really all order header information, but name of the game for Starship is to streamline your shipping process. So less things I have to select or manually type in as a shipper, the better. You know, for example, you know, I have this one set up. Hey, I'm going to send out a UPS Quantum View for all my shipments, pull in an email address, and I have mine set up. Actually, we're only going to use a Quantum View email if there's an exception. So if the package was delayed, and I'll explain why I have mine set up that this way in a moment. Now down below, this is really the packaging view detail. So here's the item to box detail. What's going on here? I actually have packaging scenarios set up. Packaging scenarios can be manually set up, or Starship can actually automatically learn them. But as you can see, Starship knows every time we ship the laptop, it goes into a laptop box. Every time we ship an air hockey table, it goes in an air hockey box. Okay, so automatically packaging for my shipper. Part of that Acer laptop, for example, this is just inside of Starship's packaging database. So our database allows you to set up and save as many packages as you need, and that can be bags, boxes, bales, pallets, crates, so on and so forth. But the nice thing with using a package is, as you can see, dimensions will automatically populate. Okay? And then bill weight, we can pull from integrated scales. We can manually type that in, or in my system here, I'm actually just grabbing the weight from inside of Acumatica. Bill weight, that would actually be dimensional weight. So we do take into consideration the dim weights, you know, nowadays with UPS, FedEx, big deal. So when we send this out and update the shipment, if the dimensional weight was different, that's what we would send it to the carrier at. So no more getting hit with those dimensional fees. Take care of that. Line item detail. Again, my system, I'm pulling item, description, weights, values. That's all coming from Acumatica. Now, Starship also has its own database, and it will start storing your inventory items. Reason we do this, for example, international data. If we don't have this inside Acumatica, it can be all stored right inside Starship. So here, if I'm missing, say, a Schedule B code, we have our own lookup. So as a shipper, I can quickly come in here, look it up, maybe set up country and manufacturer, really any of these fields. Once I set them up and I save this shipment, it's automatically going to be there for next time. Okay? So again, streamlining that whole shipment process. And again, in the packaging view, just one way we can do packaging. If I didn't have any packaging scenarios, my items could just either come in as loose items or just come into a default box. Over here, I can add single packages. We have a repeat box function where I can add multiple packages. Simply after that, it's drag and drop items to put them in boxes. You can hold down Shift, select multiple items, control the split quantities, and even the item to box detail is not required. So if you do have a large order, you could actually just bring everything into one box, manually add some boxes, get the weights on each box, and then process the shipment. And then this is just our shipping assistant wizard, just another way to process shipments. So we do have the packaging view, but through this, some clients find it easier. Up top would be my items to pack. Down below would be my boxes. If this was an LTL shipment, I would be able to click next one more time, and then I can actually do my box to pallet detail. Okay, so just a couple different ways. As a shipper, I have the options to process and build my shipments. All right. And then usually after we bring in and if we're doing packaging, adding boxes, the next step is to rate shop. So I'm going to click the green dollar icon, or I could go to the Rate Shop tab. But as soon as I do that, Starship, what we do is we integrate with over 24 carriers, and that's UPS, FedEx, so parcel, as well as LTL carriers. And when you rate shop, you are going to be able to see, as you can see right here, our live negotiated rates that I have with each of the carriers. Okay, so list rates, I can see contract rates, so that's my live negotiated rate. If I wanted to, I can see published rates, estimated delivery date. I can change that, go by business days, total days. This whole rate shop process, we can also automate that. So you can set up ship via rules and say, you know what, Starship, always rate my shipments and maybe always select the least expensive or the carrier service that's going to be the least amount of delivery days. So that whole process can be set up and automated as well. Charges tab, very simple, just a breakdown of the charges. Over here is just freight rules. So if anyone's doing like maybe a handling fee, certain customers get discounts. With our freight rules, most certainly can handle those. I mean, really, they can go all the way down to line item detail. So you can say, hey, anytime there's a item 1, 2, 3 on an order, add an additional $5 because we need additional packaging material. All right, again, real brief, we'll go through the shipment real quick here. When we are ready, we're going to just click Ship and Process. We do give you the option to actually save a shipment. So if we needed to save a shipment, can start the process, save it, and come back to it later. But as soon as we ship and process, Starship is going to generate our shipping documents. So shipping labels, NAFTA forms, commercial invoices, as you're going to see, because this one's international. Again, if this was an LTL shipment, I could do bill of lading forms, pallet labels. Okay, and here, I'm just going to preview these for the sake of the demo. Of course, when you do real time, these would just go right to a printer. I'm also using, this is what we call our smart label. And as you can see, the smart label will print a shipping label and packing list together. So this would go to a laser printer. But most certainly we can send the shipping label to a thermal printer. You do have the option with Starship's packing list that can go to a thermal printer, or of course you can send it to a laser printer. Okay, so box 1, and we'll get box 2 here. And also on this, as you can see, I customized quickly this packing list. So all the documents inside Starship can be customized. You can create unlimited templates, and on each template you can get into assigning printing rules. So maybe a certain customer needs say a packing list to look a certain way. Simply create a template for that customer and then assign it a rule that, hey, only print this document when the shipment is for customer ABC. And again, commercial invoice. So nice thing with Starship generating documents is order header, line item detail information, automatically going to populate. This one, again, is customized, so it's signed, dated. Again, as a shipper, when these print out, I simply grab them off the printer. No need to sign and date them. Same thing with this NAFTA form. have all this information already filled out. So I just grab it, I'm good to go. But once we ship and process, receive our shipping documents, now we're in that rinse repeat cycle. I just move on as a shipper and go through that whole process again. Select my next shipment or my next sales order and just go through it again. So real quick, we'll just jump back into Acumatica, show you the write back. So here's shipment 1372, the one we just shipped. As you can see, shipment confirmed. And on the shipping settings, we're going to write back freight cost and freight amount. Freight cost, that is actually what you're being charged for the shipment by the carrier, and freight amount is what we're charging the customer. Okay, so we do write back both those so you can keep track, make sure you're not losing money on the shipment. Packaging, so first off, box ID. So we do reverse translate the package. As long as they are set up inside of Acumatica, it will show you what box ID you used inside Starship. Also, custom reference 1 and 2, I have mine set up here. It's up to you on doing service and carrier, and then also ship date, but you can change that. And of course, tracking numbers. Notes tab, we are going to write back notes to the note tab. And again, that's up to you. This one, I was just working with a customer, so we do ship date, shipping weight. They actually had Packer ID, so that was a drop down inside Starship that they select, so it writes that back. Package tracking 1, they even wanted the dimensions. So as you can see, we can write all that down, and even line item Schedule B codes we were able to pass back for them. Okay, so that's really the write back. And then real quick, also included with Starship is our e-Notify program. So e-Notify allows you to create your own custom email templates. So this is why I use just the carrier generated email for exceptions, because I can create my own template, put my company logo, build my brand awareness to send to my customer. And of course, tracking numbers are hyperlinked on these. So that's a nice feature. And then dashboard, simple reporting tool, so we can track, we can run a bunch of canned reports right from dashboard. This can be installed on as many workstations as you'd like. So late delivery reports, we're going to let you know if, hey, what packages weren't delivered on time, so you can contact the shipper and try to get a refund. And then also charge comparison reports. Simply will show you all your shipments, what you charge the customer, compare it to your live negotiated rate with the carrier, and then do the plus or minus. So you can run that and make sure you're not losing money on your shipments. And really, again, real quick overview. So I'm going to pass this off to Patty now so she can talk about how APS is going to help save you on your credit card charges, as well as how to process those credit cards.
Thank you, Adrian, Matt, and Russ, Scott. Great presentation so far. Ladies and gentlemen, this presentation is truly about taking control of your inventory, purchasing, and shipping, and then, of course, taking control of your payments. So we are providing a full solution which is completely automated, secure, and compliant. Now, where does credit card processing fill in the gap here? We are APS, a full payment merchant service provider. That's us on the screen in case we haven't met. Very nice to meet all of you virtually. Now, most of the time, we hear about the challenges that most merchants are facing nowadays and the high fees that they're having to pay because they do not understand their merchant statements. They simply don't understand why the fees are there or what fees are affecting what type of card brands. So one of the things that we like to do is to educate our merchants and help them understand every single aspect of their merchant statement. And better yet, we help them to find exactly and pinpoint the areas where there is room for savings. Most people do not know about level 3 processing. I'm going to talk a little bit about it today because level 3 processing, in a nutshell, just so you get an idea, will help to lower your fees in half, if not more than half. And you have to do nothing different. It's entirely up to your merchant service provider to get this working for you. One of the other biggest complaints that we hear is the fact that when you have a support issue that has to do with credit card processing, you don't know who to turn to. And once you finally do know where to call, you get an automated system. That is something that, for me, it's a luxury when I can actually call a vendor and have a live human being on the other side of the line. Most merchants have companies in different countries where they would like to process credit card transactions and they're not able to. And then, of course, this is something that everyone's familiar with, the duplicate entry. It's very time consuming, prone to error, and then you basically lose time, lose your resources. One major issue also is the fact that you're not able to integrate with your ERP system or your e-commerce solution, your shopping carts, your mobile solution, or point of sale. These are all the issues that we address day in and day out with our merchants. And yes, we are able to resolve them. So let me begin by explaining to you what we like to teach our merchants. First of all, how to understand the different fee structures that are out there. Why is this important? Most people that we work with and that we teach about the different fee structures are very happy with flat rates. There is no issues when it comes to reconciliation, very straightforward. We like to explain the reasons why flat rates may be taking away from the lowest rate available to that specific company. One of the reasons is that you are not able to take advantage of level 3 rates. And when you notice that your rates can be cut in half, but you're not able to take advantage of this because you have signed a contract with a processor that gave you a flat rate, you'll see that the level of savings that you're missing out on really will put the flat rate structure at the very back of your list and the last choice that you would like to take whenever processing a card. Then there's tiered pricing. Basically, the processor takes control of where exactly to qualify transactions. There are 3 brackets they created: full, non-qualified, and mid-qualified. When we ask our merchants what the criteria is behind the tiered pricing, they never know how to explain it. And the bottom line is the processor controls it. So needless to say, when we analyze a statement that has tiered pricing, we find that the majority of the transactions are not qualified, which means, yes, the higher rate. And then there's Interchange Plus. Interchange Plus is the most transparent type of fee structure in the marketplace. Why? Because the processor will pass the hard costs from the card brands directly to the merchant and negotiate a transaction fee. It can't get any easier than that. So that's something that we like to walk through with all of our merchants. We provide a full analysis of a statement indicating exactly where the bank makes the money, the card brand, the processor, and where the room for savings is. And here's where we find the majority of the savings: level 3 processing. Believe it or not too many people know about it. 80% of companies are not aware of what this level 3 is. And the average savings with anybody that processes through level 3 is about $18,000 a year. And I have to tell you, today we broke the record. We were able to save a company $115,000 a year simply by processing through level 3. Now, Visa MasterCard offered this program and required data anytime that you want to take advantage of level 3 rates. You can see the data fields on the screen. Well, what we've done is we've actually taken the data fields from Acumatica and we deliver them to Visa MasterCard on our merchant's behalf. So you won't have to worry about filling in any of the fields at all. Here is a standard analysis review that we provided one of our existing merchants. You can see that they had tiered pricing and the level of savings we were able to offer simply by switching them over to Interchange Plus and offering them the level 3 savings. Now, we don't always stipulate or force our merchants to go to any tier structure. What we like to do is help them understand which fee structure is best for them, whether it's flat, tiered, or Interchange Plus. Now, the advantages that you get with APS go beyond savings. We offer free PCI compliance assistance. Needless to say, an average of 43% savings with level 3 rates. We also integrate EMV and chip readers. Terminals are available for card-present transactions. And we offer the APS click-to-pay functionality. Now, click-to-pay, in a nutshell, is a way for you to send a link or an email to your customers directly from Acumatica, allowing them to submit their own credit card or ACH payment. Also fully PCI compliant and offering the level 3 savings. Now, we offer all of our services at no charge, included with our transaction fees. Part of our services include click-to-pay. We also offer 12-hour funding. So here's what click-to-pay looks like, but instead of leaving you with just a PowerPoint slide, I'm going to jump right into a quick presentation of click-to-pay. Now, what I did is I created an invoice within Acumatica, and I saved it and released it. Now, once you release the invoice, which is just standard Acumatica functionality, you will also see the option to send the click-to-pay link or a click-to-pay invoice. Now, let's step over to your customer's side of things, okay? Let's just step into their shoes for a second. When you create the invoice and send them the link, they will click on the link and they will be able to see specific details regarding their invoice, as you can see them here. Now, the screen will be customizable, so you don't have to see APS. You can definitely provide some of your brand recognition. And then your customer will say, okay, I'm ready to make a payment. One of the beauties of click-to-pay is that you don't have to limit them to just pay one invoice. You can actually give them access to all of their outstanding invoices. And if they click on the other invoices, what we will do within click-to-pay is add as they click. So you can see we update the total. In this case, I'm going to pay for this one invoice. I can pay a custom amount or the full amount. In this case, I'd like to pay the full amount. Now, you can decide what to give your customers permission to use. Credit card only, ACH only, or give them access to both. They can also save an existing payment method or use a previously saved payment method. Now, in this case, I'm going to enter a new card, right? So what I'm going to do is type in my card number, my CVV, my expiration date, and CVV code. So the CVV code is the validation code in the back of the Visa MasterCard or in front in the American Express. 4 fields. That's all they need to fill in and then submit their payment. Now, once they submit their payment, it goes through our gateway. We're going to verify everything is correct. If there are any discrepancies, they'll get a pop-up window indicating what the discrepancy is. The CVV code is not a match or the address is not correct. But if everything went okay, as it did in this case, they will get a notification that it's been a successful transaction, and you can also set up the system to send them a receipt that shows them exactly what invoice they paid, what the amount of the invoice, etc. Okay, now let's jump back into your world as a vendor. Now that the transaction has been paid, where exactly in Acumatica do you get to receive the payment? In Acumatica, you're going to notice under banking 2 new menu items. One is process click-to-pay payments, and the other is the click-to-pay setup. Just so you get an idea, the click-to-pay setup is very straightforward. You get the option to opt in or opt out by all customers. You can always change this at the customer level. And then remember, I told you can decide whether to accept credit cards or ACH or both. In this case, I decided to accept both. I'm going to go ahead and check and see who's been making payments via click-to-pay. And you can see there has been several payments made so far. Now, I can process all of the payments at once. This is when I capture the funds, or I can process one at a time. The other thing I could do is I could actually use Acumatica's automation tool here, and I can create a rule that will automatically choose all of the click-to-pay payments per day at a certain time and capture the funds for me, so I don't have to remember to click anything anymore. And it's standard Acumatica functionality. So let's just say I'm going to accept the payment for this one transaction that I processed a few seconds ago. It's very simple. I can click on Process Payments. Once again, the transaction is being captured instantly. We are providing level 3 data to Visa MasterCard on our merchant's behalf, and the transaction is now complete. Now, you can always verify it by going to your accounts receivable, payments and applications, and see that the transaction will appear as a paid transaction. You can see it here. Now remember, we offer multi-currency, so it's not just US, it's also Canadian, and if you're in other countries, let us know, and we'll be happy to verify that we're processing there as well. So as far as Acumatica is concerned, we provide this at no charge, and we provide the training as well at no charge. Now, if you're ready to move forward or are simply curious about learning if you can lower your rates with your existing processor, let me know. I'm happy to provide you with a free audit. Send me a couple of your statements. I will analyze them for you, and then I'll walk you through a full session of how exactly to understand those merchant statements. Now, another thing that I want to mention before I leave is AcuConnect. Everybody, feel free to join us. There are lessons at AcuConnect that we'd be happy to provide you. It's a free community, and it's basically to allow all of these different ISVs and vendors to show you about what their industry experts in. So let us know about that. And last but not least, we're going to be at the ProMat event, Starship and Acumatica, and we're happy to meet anybody face-to-face there, feel free to stop by our booth. Last but not least, take the challenge. If I'm not able to beat or match any competitor's rates or fees, I will pay you $500 for allowing me to analyze your statement. And with that, Adrian, I'd like to hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Patty. I'm going to go ahead and flash up the contact information. You should see the contact information now.